Hello there. I've got a bit of time now and I'm going to do some work with a very interesting passage that Gurdjieff wrote. So here Gurdjieff is talking about the force that comes out of the Sun Absolute. It rises into creation and eventually it falls back. He says, the first of these forces continually arises from causes appearing within the prime source itself, from the effect of the pressure of new arisings, and issuing from it by momentum. The second universal force is what this first force becomes when, after having spent the momentum, it strives to reblend with the source of its arising. According to the fundamental cosmic law, the effects of a cause must always re-enter the cause. So that's interesting. The effects of a cause must always re-enter the cause. Whatever you do, whatever you give out, it leaves you for a while, but then it returns to its creator. You have spring, summer, autumn, winter. Breathing in and breathing out. It rises and then it falls. It takes a journey, and along that journey there is the opportunity for the transfer of knowledge, for struggle, for a learning, for a great adventure. And we are one of those cosmic units having a journey. Let's hope it's a great adventure where much is learned. Gurdjieff says that the first force, the affirming force, the masculine force arising from the prime source, flows out from the pressure of new arisings and issuing from it by momentum. The pressure of new arisings, I suppose they are the beings that God creates again and again. And there's a wave that flows out of him through his creation. And we need to create, and then a wave will flow out of us by momentum from the pressure of our work. Gurdjieff says, the first of these two fundamental forces, the one that is always compelled to manifest outside the source of its arising, must constantly evolve. And the second, on the contrary, in striving to reblend with the cause of its arising, must always and in everything evolve. Since the first of these three independent forces arises from vivifying actions proceeding in the very foundation of the cause of everything that exists, and thus receives in its presence the germ of that same power of manifesting vivifyingness, it must be considered as good, that is, as a factor for the actualizing of the backward flowing effects, which in relation to this first force can and must be considered as evil. Moreover, the first force, as it is manifested from inevitable and compelling causes arising in the prime source itself, can from this point of view be considered as passive. Well, that's a big chunk, but I wanted to keep it together. The last part there, he's saying that the masculine force, or let's look at men contain with them the germ of that same power of manifesting vivifyingness. It's like they are like the sword of God. They have the signal of God in them, which perhaps why is they have been the spiritual teachers on this planet. And on that point, the only feminine religion I know of is Taoism, which is a religion of the earth. It seems to be quite rare on this planet and has a tremendous beauty that is a hidden valley. The characteristics of Taoism are little understood even over in China, and certainly not in the West, which is full of fire. And perhaps that represents the era that we exist in, either for ourselves or for the organic life on Earth. Perhaps in another 200,000 years, if the organic life represents the back-flowing current, then most of the teachers will be women, and not today. Women are very busy weaving, and here Gurdjieff is saying that actually, because men are given this huge momentum by the prime source, they could in a certain way be considered as passive, because they're shot out of the cannon, if you like, and the momentum of the source is carrying them. And then the women who are weaving and returning that energy into the source, they could be considered active. And I think that's the explanation for sometimes the way things are described culturally. Women seem to be very active in a certain way. But that doesn't take away from the fact that men are the active force. But it requires clarity to understand in which way they form polarities. And Gurdjieff continues, and as for the third universal force, this is nothing but the result of the clash everywhere and in everything of these two fundamental descending and ascending independent forces. Although this third independent force is only the result of the first two fundamental forces, it is nevertheless the spiritualizing and reconciling principle of every cosmic formation. The spiritualizing and reconciling principle. You're only paid by existence for your work, you know. There's something else here that I have noticed, and that is that the third force is sometimes considered as a kind of lightning that appears between the affirming and denying. And so it is a sort of a transmission that happens under certain unusual circumstances, and it's like between the red and the blue, a white light, a white bolt shoots through when there has been a communication. But sometimes the third force is considered as part of an octave, in which case it becomes permanent. So I think the way that works, and perhaps I will do another episode on the sacred symbols with a bit more information. It seems that on our journey to the octave, when we struggle, we learn to create a kind of friction, a contact between the male and the female, and that white bolt shoots through. But if we get the sense of that, then we try to take ownership of that third force and make it permanent. and in which case it becomes green, and then you've got red, blue and green, and they become fused together, make that part of your life, like hot wiring a car. So all the action happens on every third, and that is the reconciling, and that leads to new powers. If you make that lightning bolt part of you, and it becomes green and a permanent part of you, which means in your life you develop the taste of creation, of unifying opposites. You change, and then you change again on the fifth. When I'm talking in symbols, I'm talking about a higher kind of intellect. And although the physical manifestation that we're so used to, our bodies and the world, is a representation, inside the representation, everything does have to be wired up together. So those forces do have to actually exist in the world. The body and our lives in the mortal world, although they are only in a certain way a representation of a metaphysical reality, nevertheless, if you actually look inside the body, you will find all those forces. And Gurdjieff gave indications as to where in the body they are located. And Gurdjieff did not seem to appreciate the passive path. And I think that's a general problem. I'm not in a hurry to make any criticism of Gurdjieff, but for completeness, if one has time for completeness, which we probably don't, but I was just reading some spiritual reviews and teachers and so on, and it's clear to me that to become intelligent and creative and all those things is quite difficult on this planet because people don't want it. And the amount of people who are really intelligent is small. Intelligent in a wide sense, in a wide feeling. You're amongst a people, a species, a planet that doesn't have much need of it. So that's just how it is, really. I suppose it's a boundary and a barrier that one must wish and hope to move beyond. Feel sad sometimes, really. But there is a time to go it alone, and there is a time to return, like the prodigal son, to bring a tale of a distant land with you, to tell tall tales, touch people's hearts, give people something to dream about.